Okay, the general consensus seemed to be the Colonial Maple, and that was also my favorite. One coat was a little bit too light, so I've applied a second coat of the Colonial Maple, which has darkened it up a little bit. And not quite as dark as the cherry would have been, but I think this will make everyone happy. I know I'm happy with this tone. So we're going to give this 8 or 10 hours to flash off, and then we'll start applying the clear coats on the top of that. But I think this will be number 5. This will be the last. I'm going to push through to the end with this one. We'll get the first couple coats of clear coat on and sanded, and then we'll apply the badge that belongs right about here. I've got it all measured out. I took the measurements from the original, and we'll just put it back in its original spot. Probably give it a final coat of clear to protect the badge from tarnish, and put the radio in it, put the dial, we'll put a grill cloth in it, we'll put the lens in that I made, slip the radio in, put a set of knobs on it, and put this one to bed. But I think we have managed to save a very rare radio. Now, rare doesn't mean it's worth anything. But as we stated in the earlier videos, I have found no information on ARVN radios, excuse me, TRIAD radios. Why do I keep calling it an ARVN? A TRIAD radio. And I've only ever seen one other example that I could find on the internet, but had no information other than it was for sale. Anyway, moving on. Progress so far. We have 6 coats of clear. I sanded after 4. I'm going to put a couple more coats of clear on here. And, you know, every 4 to 6 coats I'm going to give it a light sanding with 400 grit until I get the finish I'm looking for. It's actually getting close. It's starting to fill the grain in, and it's starting to look pretty good, if I do say so myself. I'm starting to get pretty happy with the way it came out. We went with the maple, of course. That was the viewer's choice. I went with 3 coats just to darken it up a little bit, and it's starting to look pretty good. And I came down here this morning, and this thing had crawled in here from the lab. It said, I want to go back in my cabinet. And I keep telling it, it's almost time, guy. We'll have you in there pretty soon. It's just anxious to get back in its box over here. So, I figured I'd also throw these guys up on the table. Those of you who know me know that I wasn't going to let a radio die. There was just no way. This is the parts radio. This is the one that was scrap. This is 1946. This is 1947. We bought some new knobs for it that look an awful lot like the originals. In fact, if you took a quick glance, you wouldn't know. I found a nice leather handle to replace the one that was up here that was kind of ratty looking. I'll put a link down in the doobly-doo. These come out of Guatemala, and they're quality. I got 4 of these for $17, and boy, I couldn't be happier with the quality of the leather, the look of the grain. Really nice handles. And just as a comparison, this is what used to be on the front of this. Is that still in frame? I hope so. Yep. This is the lens that was in front of there. I'm getting confused. Yeah, that's the reproduction I made. And it came out so good, I'm wondering if I had to take this one out and make a reproduction. This one isn't bad. Actually, yeah, I'll probably leave that alone. Now, this is the back. And this one had no back. So I've made a facsimile of the back, just to kind of give it a finish. I didn't have a 1/2 inch punch, so I had to use a 9/16. You can't drill this. This is what do they call it? Not MDF. This is hardboard, or some people call it masonite. If you try to drill this stuff, all you end up with is a bunch of shards and shreds, and it makes a mess. The secret to this is to use a Greenlee chassis punch. And punch from this side. This is what a Greenlee chassis punch is. You have a punch and a die or an anvil, and you drill a pilot hole, you thread the thing in, and then you turn this side. Normally these have a hex head bolt. I use hardened cap screws, hex head cap screw, or Allen head cap screws, and I just put an Allen wrench in my drill and just zip, they go in and out. But they make a nice clean hole in this masonite without leaving a lot of little fibers hanging out. But I figured that would dress it up a little bit. This one, of course, snaps in and out because of the batteries that were inside. This had little clips here and pins on the bottom. Well, with the back missing, I have none of that hardware, and probably no prayer of ever finding it. This one doesn't have battery cables in it anyway. It'll only ever be run on AC. So I went ahead and put a back on the back just to keep curious fingers away from the metal chassis. Anyway, that's it for now. We will bring you back. Oops, sorry about the fast motion on the camera. When that guy there has a few more coats to finish, and we've started to fit the grill cloth on. Okay, we're on the home stretch. I have 14, I think it's 14 coats of clear on this, including a couple of clear coats that I put on after I mounted the TRIAD badge, just to protect the brass from dulling up too quickly. It's going to oxidize over time. The local homeless despot store doesn't have any tint. I wanted to put some tint on the last couple of coats and just kind of add a little bit of patina to the TRIAD, but they don't have it. And I'm not going to drive 20 miles to pick up some tint. I'm pretty happy with the way this looks at this point. It was sanded every 2 coats. After, I'd put on a coat, wait a couple hours, put on another coat, and then the next morning I'd sand it and then put on another coat. And we got down to 2000 grit the last couple of sandings. We were using 2000 grit paper, so I'm pretty happy with how it came out. I should have used some grain filler. I probably would have been able to cut the number of coats of clear down by at least half. Live and learn. I'm not a woodworker. And thank you, David. I will try the grain filler on the next one. I think I'm going to put some grill cloth in here, and then I'm going to fit the window or the glass or whatever you want to call the cover for the lens that I've made. And we'll put the radio in. I've fashioned a back for it just to keep curious fingers away from the hot tubes, and I've left plenty of room for ventilation. Of course, I got to take that bottom piece of wood out of there. That stiffener isn't needed anymore. We will have one along the top, and I'll throw a couple of glue blocks down here in the corner to fasten the back to. But that'll be real simple to do. And I have another one of these coming. Not this model, it's this one here with the 3 knobs. I found one of these, paid a little more than I would have liked to have paid for it, but it's not as in bad a condition as the first one was. And I have since located a third one, so I now have 2/3 of the known TRIAD radios, or the 3 that I know about anyway. The other one was ludicrously priced, and I wish him luck selling it for that. But the other one's coming up from Florida. Now that I'm comfortable with doing these bends, I should have no problems putting a fresh veneer on the new one that's coming. And the new one, as you can see, it has its original wooden knobs. And what I think I'm going to do is take one of those knobs and try casting it and see if we can make some original looking knobs for this one here. but that's a future project. I've been watching videos on casting plastic knobs. So let me get on, moving on with this, stop yakking, and we'll finish this thing up for you.
The scene when he passes out, when he's watching the flashing 12.
Modern custom pistol build. Their only way out. Are you concerned about what's going on in the stock?
Appointment with a temple orthopedic specialist.
Afford to compromise.
So, I mean, that kind of never.
The injustice.
Oh, no.
Reaction. Tweet number 3 came in from Guide Sam, and this is about Garrett Wilson.
Separate. We will have the
It's not that.
Facet Wealth. Facet Wealth does goal-based financing. Well, hold your horses. Tom Brady may not be retiring after all. DNA test today. That's a mental health net. Always do their best for a safe and comfortable shopping.
Half-hour part 3 of a 4-part exploration of the life and music of Paul. Remember, my fist is 8 centimeters, so
Charcuterie and cheese, local cheeses, things like that.
Back next season. B. Tip for a healthier planet.
It sure feels good to step into a warm car after letting it heat up.
This is eternal life, that they may know
More than
Cousin.
Things because I was very passionate.
Well, there we have it. I sure am fond of these sets that have an RF amp on the front end. Holy cow, this thing pulls in a lot of stations compared to the ones that are just a converter on the front end. Unbelievable. I guess we're ready to move on to another project. I want to thank everybody for their assistance and suggestions. I'm looking forward to the second TRIAD coming in, the one with the 3 knobs. I'm just very happy with how this one came out for my first attempt at a full restoration. There's a few flaws here and there that I'm aware of, and of course, you know, you can see the uneven edge here. That's the way this thing came in the door. But compared to how it looked before, I'm pretty pleased. These are not the right knobs, of course, but they'll suffice for now. I'm the radio mechanic. We're going to move on to other projects. We have a whole bunch of them in the stream coming down for you. Something, well, the one I got on the bench right now has a real unusual power supply. Another one with a strange power supply setup. But we'll be covering that shortly. Thanks for watching, and again, appreciate all the suggestions. I'm the radio mechanic. See ya. Bye-bye.